Hello.
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 Welcome to the Women Who Create podcast.
A no-nonsense podcast for women in creative business.
I'm Debbie Duda.
I'm Amy Phipps.
We did that so well.
We are pros.
That was like knocking
Smooth.
it out of the park. No stumbling. Love it. It's just the two of us. What are we going to talk about this week, Amy?
So we are going to talk around and about...
So a meandering conversation, because normally our conversations are so direct and on ball.
Yeah. Aligning yourself with your vision,
Okay.
business, life, and a little bit about future self.
Okay. So the first thing that pops up there in my head
Go
is you can't align yourself with your vision if you don't know what your vision is.
Yes.
So there's
So which comes
some
first?
steps here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like working
And even
out what
before
is-
that,
Okay, brilliant.
being clear on your values.
It's the fundamental building blocks of
So
your
does
business.
is it like a circle, or does it go values, vision, alignment, or is it vision, values, alignment, or alignment obviously has to, you have to do that after you've worked out what the thing is.
So is it a circle? Are they pillars?
Oh, are they pillars?
Are they pillars that hold things up? Thinking about that, like in the way that you look at things. Is it that idea of the circle? Are they pillars, or is it like this foundational building blocks? Because
I feel like it's
so
a circle.
many kind of. You feel like it's a circle.
Yeah, I feel like it's. I feel like.
But I feel like if I created a circle, then my business is just gonna be like a seesaw. How does my business get on top of a circle?
Well, it's evolving, isn't it? It's like going round and feeding back into each other, and each thing informs. And then there has to be like an element.
Were you going to draw something?
I was
going to show me a picture of a circle.
Yeah, I had a picture of a.
Oh yeah, okay,
but that's from that workshop that we did that day at my house. So it's not about that, but it's that kind of idea, like, of things feeding back in. But then, if we're talking about aligning, at what point then? And also, these things change as we grow and evolve.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's super important to bear in mind, the flexibility, and as you are working out these different things, however you choose to work on your values or what your vision is, whatever tools you use, there has to be room for tweaking and room for
reflection.
Yeah. And
So thinking about values and vision, because essentially you need to create your values and vision first, and then you make sure your business is in alignment.
I remember, Ebony, who we've had on the show some time ago, she, in her book, Misfit to Maven, she talks about having a values filter, which I found really, really interesting. So you're always looking at the world, work, business, life, and making decisions aligned with those values. And I think that's really important. And I think even if we don't realise we're doing that, that's how we would generally make decisions, because there's something that we've decided or something that's inherent that we just feel is our truth, or the way we do things, or the things that we agree with.
Sure. And is that like something that we come to realise, or because I wonder if your values are just something that's integral to you, and that's part of your like growing up, and it kind of informs your decision making and the friends that you might make and the life. I mean, it's so fundamental, isn't it, our values to like the decisions that we make. And
I hear a lot of people more these days saying that they are a values-led business, and that's a USP, massive. And
I think we're all value-led.
But exactly.
Some people do it consciously, I suppose, is the difference. And other people, they just make decisions and they don't question why they go down certain routes. Yes. I think it's that.
And I think it's good to have a bit of both.
Yeah, sure.
And I think if you're looking at your business, so a lot of work that I'm doing with people is about changing direction and where do they want to go. And then the work does look more at how do they align with this idea of what their values are and what tools would they use to do that. That's being maybe more specific. If you're looking at like a timeline work, or like working towards changing something profound or small or whatever, I think then you need to be a bit more intentional. But I like the idea of, we've talked about before, intuition and just knowing inherently what you view as being a value and something that's in your belief system that taps into everything. But then also I like the idea of knowing how to communicate that with your core values being, like we said, like a pillar of your business. So for me, creativity, community, and confidence are 3 of my core values.
That they are alliterative as well.
Yeah, it does totally help. But it took me a long time to get there, and whether that's work that I was doing in my business to niche in with how I wanted to speak to people and my messaging and how I felt I could help people, that's part of it as well. So maybe it's something about what is the outcome that you want from knowing what your values are and then being able to align with them. Is it growth in your business? Is it something about finding the authentic you to then be able to look at what the next chapter in your life is? Is it feeling like out of sync with things? Is it something to do with maybe you've got a project coming up that you need to tap into a certain theme or a vibe of something to do that project better if you're working with a client or something? Like, I think there's different ways that you can access or action, like aligning with value, aligning with things. It doesn't necessarily have to be values, I guess, but values probably are where it starts.
So that's the underpinning.
Yeah.
I think people can have lots of values as well, can't they?
For sure.
Like, because I think about the values of my business, and then I think about the values personally, and then I think that things have happened in my life, and like
100%
fairness is like a massive one for me.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the most important one for my business.
No, absolutely.
But for me personally, you know, fairness is, you know, huge. Inclusivity,
and equality,
and compassion, and those things really are fundamental to my life and my personality. But
it's not necessarily something you'd speak about in a business
they might
context.
not be, but maybe they should be. Like maybe they should be. You know.
So how would you look at those and reflect on that and decide whether they were something that you wanted to take forward?
But I suppose, like, so if I'm thinking about like fairness and compassion, then maybe the way, and inclusivity, maybe the way that I'm bringing that out is the work that I'm doing with the university and the Smallwood Trust, running a set of workshops for women on low incomes
100%.
to help them build their business. So there are certain projects that you do within what you do that bring out those values more than other elements, for example.
So maybe it's about looking at different areas of your life, business,
projects. Because
your business is values,
most businesses have a central thing that you do, but then there might be odd offshoots of that, different projects 100%. That come along, or people collaborating with you on different things, and that might give you the ability to express different bits.
100%. And yes, absolutely. So like in my business, I guess my main thread would be the coaching, but then obviously I'm on the Etsy team, so that taps into my like more mentoring or like craft.
Sure.
And then podcasting with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something where we get to share other people's opinions and have these conversations.
Ooh, we've never had a conversation about what are the shared values of the podcast.
Ooh.
Like, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
Because we were questioning how long this podcast has been going for. We are like 2.5 years in, do you know?
No,
like over 2.5 years. Yeah, I've got a tweet that's lined up in buffer that's going to bang and go boof, 2.5 years, because I had a look. Because we were questioning whether it would be even 2 years long. Yeah. And I think we've just gone into this just like and never actually gone, ooh, what are the values of it? So that would be an interesting. Maybe we don't need to do it live, but I think, and what are we aligned with?
And also, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, the inclusivity element of our podcast, and that's something that I know that we would like to open up and work on more. Yeah, and we have had conversations with people saying, oh, well, you know, is it only for men? Isn't that a bit limiting? And and you know, full disclosure, we did do an interview with the guy, and actually we didn't air it
because we didn't enjoy it.
It wasn't a positive moment for us, and we didn't feel like that aligned with us, and that was very much values led.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. But yeah, so there is something that maybe we haven't necessarily had an exclusive conversation about, like what the values of the women who create podcasts are, but I think we feel like
quite aligned anyway in our values. And probably when you're working with people on projects, probably the reason why you pull together is there's some chemistry.
Yes,
we go, sure. Oh God, I trust this person. Yeah. I think it's really weird how sometimes you'll meet somebody and all your hackles will go up and you'll think, ooh,
you get the vibe,
but then you push that down a little bit and you think, oh no, maybe they are a nice person, and then maybe 3 years later you're like, fuck, I wish I'd listened to my intuitions. There is something off with that person. Like I love the way you just know, and I think we question that too much, so maybe we didn't need to talk about the values because we just connected 100%. Wholeheartedly.
100%, and absolutely.
I think this thing about businesses calling themselves value led, I think that's just a fluffy way of saying we're a nice company. And we look after our staff, and it's like a kind of social business type thing, isn't it?
It is, but it's also a way that I think big business is trying to spin a different marketing angle, and I think it can be quite divisive.
And maybe they're not always value led. Maybe they're actually profit led.
They're profit led.
Yeah. All the time is the profit. Yeah.
And it isn't that. Yeah. Even so. So my part-time job at a clothing store in Nottingham.
That shall not name.
That we shall not name.
Yeah.
They profess to be a very sustainable, values-led lifestyle brand, and yet from the inside out they are jeopardizing their staff's well-being and careers because they're constantly pushing for profit. And I had a really nice conversation with, who was that with? It was with Emma again, about businesses being comfortable in their profit margin and being like, okay, I'm still making profit. Why do I need to up my profit? Yeah. Why am I doing that at the detriment of the drip down effect that will have on all these other things? So that there's a real mismatch there with saying that you are a values-led company. It's that whole like speak versus action.
I think if you're a business, once you've gone on the stock exchange, you're no longer value-led.
No.
Because you're led by your shareholders who only want profit. Yeah. And it's constantly having to create more and more profit so they get more value for their shares. And once you've gone that far, you can't be value-led because you're run by shareholders who are literally going to sell all their shares if they don't make a profit. Yeah. And so that means that you have to sort of, maybe you started out, like maybe the company that you work for. The core
principles perhaps were there.
Yeah, at the very beginning, of course. You know, the business that you work for that now shall not be named probably did start off with these amazing values, but once
that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, once you've floated your business, you have to then make compromises, don't you? And I think actually when you're a smaller business like us and we're miles off ever floating on the stock exchange.
We don't need to. How wonderful.
Yeah, if I make the same profit this year that I made last year, then that's grand.
Yeah.
You know, if I make a bit less, then that's grand. And if I make a bit more, then that's grand, because I only have myself to answer to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's when it becomes so much bigger. I mean, that's another conversation. I love the way these things drift into somewhere else. So let's come back. Then I guess I'm going to find out my values.
You're going to have to think about your values, which maybe you already know. And I think...
Yeah. But like you said, they change as well. And I think it's worthwhile going back and going...
And checking in.
Yeah.
Like, how does this... Is
this
still
who
fit?
I am?
Yeah. Is this a good fit? How am I communicating that with my audience? But then also, how am I stepping into that? And I think a lot of the work that I've been doing on using tools for people to help align with their vision has been about stepping into that, and again, this idea of something being wholehearted, and it isn't just about showing up as that. It's about really tapping into all the senses and feeling like, right, to align with this vision and these values, I need to really do some work on feeling it and smelling it, and what does it taste like, and all of these different levels that you have to create this vision to make it really, really clear so that you can align with it. So that idea of a vision, it isn't just, although I love a vision board, and I think that's a really brilliant creative way to
it's
tap.
a tool you can use.
It's a tool,
yeah, sure.
But it goes a lot deeper than that, and if you want to be really clear on your vision, there's a lot of work that to be done on looking at all the 5 sense kind of angle.
Because this is audio, isn't it? But when you were just describing that, and you were like, taste it and smell it, my eyes were like, what? Like, you must have seen my eyes like, I'm gonna taste my alignment.
So all of
what an interesting concept that it becomes.
So that's more about
such a bigger thing,
the vision, I guess, than the alignment. But a lot of work that I do with clients, and when they really want to make change, it has to be tapping into all these different senses, because then that's how you can make the changes in how your brain processes things. And if you can work on all these different levels, then that's giving you all the different pieces that come together to create. I'm doing like a little ball hand gesture and waving my hands around, but that's the whole that. And different people learn and experience the world differently. So some people might be a visual learner or a kinesthetic learner or whatever. So that is very personal. But the more of those senses that you can attach what your vision is and what your values are, then that's when the alignment can really happen, and then you can really energize that and make these really, really positive changes and be really, really specific, and also that allows you to put the things to one side. And I think as small businesses, and I think actually caveat to that, big businesses that are trying, or medium to big businesses that are trying to get back to that authenticity, are using these processes to try and reconnect. And I think we're in a very fortunate position, I would argue, as women in business, who are maybe more led by our intuition and things like that it's we're
more able to step into this,
and it's a great time to do that work and use those tools. And it's really interesting, and the more I learn about it, the more I think, and some of these things we just automatically do, and that's great, but there are ways that we can do more of them. And what does that look like then when we circle back round to these pillars and this alignment and what our vision and values are? Like, I'm stirring the pot, like it's all
it's quite nice to be conscious of stuff as well, isn't it, sometimes, and to unpick it and to look at why you're doing stuff and the reasoning behind that, rather than just doing it because it's happening. Because then is there a sense that you can manipulate it a little bit, you can move it to where you want it to go.
Sure, 100%. It's great. And I don't know, it just, I've lost what I was about to say then, but it feels like that alignment can happen serendipitously. Is that the correct, it can just happen.
Of course.
Like when we put stuff out to the universe and all that stuff that we talked about often, these things can just happen, but then we can also help them happen. And that's a little bit more about, that
manifestation.
Which, so it's really interesting, and it's all like self-development work that you do. And I think when you're a company of one, that is what it comes back to, because you have to do the work, the internal work, to then be able to
put stuff out there.
100%. Ooh. So it's good stuff. And I'm enjoying working on it in my own business and coaching people through that process.
And it's really exciting hearing you talk about it, because I think there's been times on this 2.5-year journey of running a podcast where you've been a little bit lost of what is it that I'm doing? I know that I can help people. I've run, this business. You run Super HQ. It was great, successful. You've written books. And I think there was this moment of, what am I doing? Yeah. And lately it's beautiful to see. You get really excited.
I do.
And really see the value that you can add. And I think that's like, massively exciting to see that transformation and inspiring for people, and also to go, this is how I can help people, and to see you be aligned with how you can bring that out into the world, and that's great. That's what everybody wants, isn't it? To feel that yes, I'm in my zone. This is what's working for me. This is how I can help people.
That's really great feedback, because I do feel like I'm finally stepping into, right, this is where I want to be, and feel like, is that like, something clicked, and all these different pieces have clicked together, and obviously...
And you've gone through a journey to get to that point, and I think it can be frustrating sometimes, can't it? It's like, I'm not quite sure,
but then actually,
you've got to go through that journey to get there.
Yeah, for sure, and it's been like a personal development thing, and a spiritual thing, and also a technical thing. Like, so one of the recent modules in the Indie Freedom Seekers, which is your group that I'm part of, has been about helping me create something to share with my audience, and that's helped me get really, really, really clear on where I want to take my business and my offering, and I got it all clicked into place last week, and I was like, this is the thing. And that's great.
So that's really nice to hear that.
So that's good feedback for you, and I will share that with the audience at the end, because it might also be helpful for them when we're talking about creativity, alignment and visualization, but then being able to help with actions, because there's no point in doing all of this unless you're going to act on it, right?
Sure, yeah.
So that's really exciting. I do,
Woo! Come on, let's go. Should we end on a high?
Let's end on a high, and let's then maybe we can, do a Women Who Create podcast manifesto at some point. Because who doesn't love a manifesto?
Do that. I love it. I think we should certainly do a manifesto. And good luck with you finding your vision alignment, and stepping in. And I think a lot of the time, if you're not in alignment, you'll know it.
You fucking know it.
Because you'll feel out of place. You'll be like, is this the work that I'm meant to be doing? Are these the clients I'm supposed to be working with?
And even today, we've been talking about choosing our clients. And actually, an experience that I had earlier in the year, when I felt like I just qualified through my coaching stuff, and I'm going to take on this client. And there was something that wasn't right about it. And obviously the power of hindsight, it wasn't the right fit. But now I would go, it's not the right fit, I can direct you to so-and-so. But at that point, I'm newly qualified, I'm going to give this a go. And maybe it's just because I don't feel very confident. Sure. But when you know you're not... It takes a lot of guts
to say no to work, though, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's a massive thing.
So there's something about knowing the good feelings as well as the not so good feelings, and how can you have this idea of this filter, how can that apply? So that would be interesting to hear from you guys, listeners. Do you feel like you are aligned with your vision and your value? And if so, let us know how you work with that and what that looks like in your business. And if not, what's next? What's going
Create
on?
That space to work on that stuff.
How does that feel? Like, what have you tried? Tell us. I'd love to hear.
We would love to hear from you. Well,
thank you for listening.
If you'd like
to leave us a review, because we don't do this often enough, do we?
Tell people about it, because we're one of the 6 best podcasts for women in business in the UK.
Yeah, and you
tell more people.
Leave us a review on iTunes,
and Sainsbury's loves us too.
Spotify, and
come on, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Find out how you can work with us to grow your business at www.debbiedoodah.co.uk
and www.womenwhocreateuk.com. Check out all our blogs with loads of free advice that we're sharing for all business people,
because we love you. And there's a free Facebook mini course on my site for 5 days, so you can get a good organic reach.
Cool. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on iTunes and Spotify,
or get hold of us on